The job market is seeing its biggest shift since the 2020 pandemic, and most people don't even know what's happening. I'll show you. In 2020, the pandemic shut down the economy and transformed the job market because it forced everybody to work from home if you could. And this brought on a very strong employee-favored market. During this time, employers were desperate to find employees, and employees had all the leverage. They had the power and they had the upper hand. So between 2020 and 2022, we saw wages going up. We saw high perks. We saw big sign-on bonuses. And if your company was not giving you all the things that you wanted, you could just quit and go to another company, which fueled the Great Resignation. And that was when things started to shift, because now the power started to even out a little bit. Employees still had the upper hand. They still had more power, but we started to see it even out a little bit because now interest rates started to go up by the Federal Reserve Bank. During this time, employees still had the upper hand, but you didn't see that extreme one-sided leverage that we saw before. And now during this period, you started to see people quitting a little bit less. And now instead of quitting to find a new job, people just put in less effort. And this is where we saw quiet quitting start to become a lot more popular. Essentially, if you didn't get all the perks that you wanted, you might not have been able to find another company that gave you all the things that you wanted. So maybe you stayed at your job, but you just didn't put in all the same effort that maybe you would have. This went on through 2023 and 2024. And now in 2025, we're starting to see something a lot more even and potentially more sided on the employer, as the Trump administration and Doge are changing the economy and the job market. Let me show you what I mean. The Trump administration and Doge have talked about cutting employees, cutting costs, and removing unproductive workers as a way to figure out the finances for the government. Now, for the purposes of this video, I want to focus on two main buckets, two main ideas that the government is working on inside of the government, which is creating a culture shift for the private market as well. For example, the government has talked about how they want to change business policies from remote work to in-the-office work. And we're also seeing how the government is creating different business goals, like ending DEI initiatives, which is also impacting the private market. So let me explain what's going on at the government and how that's impacting the private market. Now, this is one of the reasons why on March 11th, 2025, I'm hosting a free live and virtual wealth building workshop where I'm going over some of the big changes that we're seeing happen in our economy right now, from some of the Trump policies to the Doge policies to tariffs to artificial intelligence and technology changes, and how each one of these things can create a unique investment opportunity. Because a lot of these changes are happening faster than what a lot of people expected. So what I want to do in this workshop is go over how you can take advantage of these opportunities as an investor. It's completely free. If you want to join, you do have to reserve your spot. I'm doing two workshops on March 11th, one in the morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and again in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join for free, you can reserve your spot by clicking the link down in the description below. Now, I'm not here to predict what's going to happen. We don't know what the impacts of these things are going to be in the economy. I want you to understand what's going on with them right now and how they're impacting the job market. That way you can be smarter and make better decisions with your money. On January 20th, 2025, Trump passed a presidential action titled Return to In-Person Work. And what this presidential action says is that government department heads must take all necessary steps to terminate remote work arrangements and require employees to return to work in person at their respective duty stations on a full-time basis. See, this is a change in government policy. And you might hear that and say, well, Jaspreet, I don't work for the government. Why does this affect me? Because this government policy change is creating a culture shift which is impacting private businesses. Let me show you what I mean. After Trump was elected president, Chase Bank gave a very strong statement saying, get back into the office to work or be fired. And they're not alone. Stellantis is mandating people return back to office. And if you still don't believe me, about a month after the election, Forbes put out this piece right here, which is titled, The Great Office Return. Will 2025 be the end of remote work? Now again, these government policies are not telling private companies what to do. But it almost feels like these government policies to end remote work have given private companies that reassurance to now say, hey, it's okay to end your remote work policies, which is why we're seeing a lot of companies now start to really push for return to office at a rate that we haven't seen in a while. Just like that, we're also seeing a culture shift when it comes to government goals, which is impacting business goals. Before the 2024 election, there were a lot of companies that had these big DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, like you can see on this Meta blog post from 2022 here? Well, after Trump entered the White House, the government's DEI policies were essentially shut down. Again, there were no mandates on what private companies had to do, but we started to see a culture shift with what private companies started to do after the government changed their DEI policies. For example, Meta recently announced that they are ending their DEI initiatives. Walmart rolled back their DEI program, and McDonald's joined the stampede of companies that's rolling back their DEI programs. Again, why am I saying this? The government is not mandating what private companies need to do, but these government changes, such as return to office, ending DEI, have seemed to create a little bit of a culture shift, which is impacting what private companies do. Of course, private companies can do what they want, that's why they're called private companies, but we're seeing how these government policies are creating the culture shift, which is impacting what private companies are doing as well. And kind of like the icing on the cake, it seems like the government is really pushing for more productivity, for more efficiency, and it looks like that might also be a part of this new culture. Now that we've kind of laid out the big picture of what's going on, let me talk about how this impacts you if you work a job or if you're an employer. Now again, we're keeping you posted on all of this in Market Briefs, which is my free financial newsletter, but the reason why I want you to understand this is because right now unemployment is still very low. The most recent unemployment reading came out at around 4%. But what I can tell you is that during times of uncertainty, businesses get a little bit tougher, they get a little bit leaner, and they get a little bit tighter. And yes, we have a lot of uncertainty right now. It's kind of like the stock market. There's uncertainty with tariffs, there's uncertainty with taxes, there's uncertainty with a lot of economic policies and how those things will impact, the overall economy. And this is why we're starting to see more businesses say, we might need to be a little bit more productive, we might need to be a little bit more lean. What does lean mean? Less employees, less fat, and less people that are not pulling their end of the weight. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're working a job where you feel like you can just kind of sit back and relax, just understand the state of the entire job market right now and understand what's going on, because at the end of the day, no company wants an average employee. Every company in the world talks about how they want the brightest and the best. Nobody brags about how they want the average employees. Something to keep in mind on. Now, if you don't feel that desire to go above and beyond at the company that you're at right now, then maybe you want to consider starting to look for a new company right now, because you don't want to work for a company that you don't feel like you would want to succeed at. I mean, why would you want to work at something and then really only go halfway in? If you want to be successful at something, you want to go 110%. So start looking for that thing right now, because companies are going to want to find more efficient and more productive people. It seems like that's where the job market is going. And maybe that requires you to get a career change. Maybe that requires you to get a job change. Maybe that means you might want to think about getting a certificate or some sort of other degree. That way you can qualify for a job that meets your needs, that can give you the pay that you want. Because yes, there are some crappy companies out there that abuse their employees, they don't take care of their employees, they don't pay their employees well. That's horrible. But on the other side, there are also some good employers out there that will pay you well, that will give you a lot of growth opportunities, that will give you the ability to earn a lot more money if you continue to excel. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be working for a company that's going to put you through a lot of work and not give you any rewards if you're putting in the additional work, but that might require you to have some additional skill set. Now, I get it, there could be a lot of people that are watching this video. What does that mean? It's going to depend on you, what you're interested in, what you're good at, but spend some time researching this. It is so unfortunate how many times you see people go out and get a degree, then get a job and just continue working down this thing without even realizing what are the other potential opportunities out there. You can go out and get a certificate online that can give you a whole new career path, that can help you earn more money and do something more fulfilling, that can allow you to earn more money. So you got to spend some time on your income side in addition to how you invest your money, because that's how you build wealth. You have to know how to use your money, you have to know how to invest your money, but you also got to know how to earn that money too. Now, some of you might say, well, I don't want to work for somebody else, I want to be an employer. Fine, that's not the topic of this video. You want to learn how to build a business? Great, go out and build a business. I love entrepreneurship. I love working with entrepreneurs. I have some videos on my channel where I go over that, but that's not the topic of today. The job market is changing. This is a fact of life. Some people do not like it, but this is what's happening. Wealthy people understand what's happening. They don't focus on the emotion. They don't focus on the headline. They don't get caught up in all the emotions and crying and complaining and screaming. They want to understand what's happening. That way we can find the opportunity. That's what I want you to understand. I want you to know what's happening. That way you can take advantage of what's happening, because most people just get blindsided by it and then they just complain and scream and complain. I want you to know what's happening. That way you can take advantage of what's happening. And again, I'll be keeping you posted here on my channel. We keep you posted on Market Briefs every single day, which is my free financial newsletter. And then I have a free workshop on March 11th, where I'm going to be going over how these changes create a unique investment opportunity. You can see all of these resources for you down in the description. And with that, I'll see you on YouTube tomorrow. President Trump is now considering getting rid of the income tax. Take a listen.
As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens.
The Fair Tax Act of 2025 was a bill proposed which would effectively abolish the IRS.